You built paradise while we were calling you a failure. My sister finally saw what our parents never could. Original post, r/relationships. I, 27M, need perspective because I genuinely can't tell if I'm being unreasonable or if my family is gaslighting me again. This might be long, but I need to get it all out because I've been carrying this weight for so long that I can't even tell what's real anymore. Growing up, I was labeled the problem child, despite never getting into serious trouble. My sister Emma, 23F, was the golden child who could do no wrong. I want to be clear about what I mean by this, because people throw these terms around casually, but in my family, it was a systematic difference in how we were treated. Examples that still burn in my memory. I got straight A's in high school, took AP classes, and was on the honor roll every semester. My parents' response? I was showing off and making Emma feel bad about herself. They actually asked me to stop mentioning my grades at dinner. Emma got C's and D's, and they threw her a party for getting a B in basic math, saying she was doing her best, and not everyone can be book smart. When I saved money for my part-time job at the hardware store to buy a used car at 17, a beat-up Honda Civic that I'd researched for months to find the best deal, my parents said I was materialistic and obsessed with things. They made me park it down the street because they didn't want the neighbors thinking we were those kinds of people who gave cars to teenagers. Emma crashed Dad's car twice before she turned 18, once backing into a pole at the mall, once running a red light. Both times, accidents happen to everyone, and at least she wasn't hurt. They bought her a new car for her 18th birthday because she needs something safe. I think they decided I was difficult when I was 7 years old. I remember the exact moment, actually. We were at the grocery store, and Emma, then 3, had thrown herself on the floor screaming because Mom wouldn't buy her candy. Full theatrical production, kicking, screaming, the works. An elderly lady even came over to see if everything was okay. Mom gave in, bought her the candy, and Emma immediately stopped crying. I asked why Emma got candy for being bad when I'd been good the whole shopping trip. That was it. That was my crime. Mom's face changed, and she said I was jealous and mean-spirited, and couldn't stand to see my sister happy. That label stuck for 20 years. 20 years of being the problem for asking logical questions, for pointing out inconsistencies, for expecting fairness. When I was 10, I joined the science club. Emma, then 6, cried because she wanted to join too but was too young. My parents made me quit because I was excluding my sister. When I was 12, I started learning guitar. Emma wanted my guitar. My parents made me share, which meant she got it whenever she wanted, usually right when I was practicing. She broke it within a month. My parents said instruments were too expensive anyway, and never replaced it. In high school, I worked at a hardware store after school and weekends. I was saving for college because my parents had made it clear they'd pay for Emma's education, but I would need to learn the value of hard work. I didn't mind the work. I actually loved it. The owner, Mr. Peterson, taught me carpentry, electrical basics, plumbing. He became more of a father figure than my actual father. When I graduated as salutatorian, my parents came to graduation but spent the ceremony talking to other parents about how Emma had just started working at the mall and was so responsible and really coming into her own. I moved out at 18 for forestry school. I chose it partly because I loved nature, partly because it was far from home. I worked 3 jobs: campus maintenance, weekend shifts at a lumberyard, and summer fire crew work. I took out loans, applied for every scholarship I could find, ate ramen for months at a time. I graduated with honors and a job offer from the State Forestry Service. My parents came to graduation. They arrived late, left early, and spent their time there telling anyone who would listen that Emma was considering community college and how proud they were that she was taking her time to find herself. I became a forestry technician for the state at 22. The job doesn't pay much, but it came with knowledge and connections. I learned about land management, about ecosystems, about building in harmony with nature. I also learned about a parcel of land going up for sale, 10 acres of wilderness, bordered by state forest on 3 sides, with a small creek running through it. The owner was retiring, wanted it to go to someone who'd respect it. I worked every overtime shift available. Lived in a studio apartment with no heat, showered at work, ate 1 meal a day. For 3 years, every penny went to saving for that land. When I was 25, I had enough for the down payment. The owner, who'd gotten to know me through work, gave me a deal because he knew I'd protect it. Then came 2 years of building my cabin. Every weekend, every vacation day, I was up there. I dug the foundation by hand because I couldn't afford equipment rental. I learned timber framing from YouTube and library books. Tom, my mentor at work, spent countless weekends teaching me, helping me, never asking for anything in return. We milled lumber from dead falls on the property. I installed solar panels I bought used from a demolished school. Built a composting toilet system. Set up rainwater collection. The cabin is 900 square feet of everything I ever dreamed of. Post and beam construction with local timber. A stone fireplace I built rock by rock from creek stones. Handmade cabinets from beetle kill pine. Windows positioned to catch sunrise and sunset. A porch that looks out over the creek. It's not fancy, it's better than fancy. It's mine, built with my hands, my sweat, my blood when I'd nick myself on something sharp. It's proof that I can create something beautiful from nothing but will and work. During these years, my family barely noticed. They'd occasionally ask about my camping project, dismissively. Emma was living at home, working part-time at various retail jobs, dating different guys. My parents paid her bills, bought her clothes, covered her car insurance. When I'd visit for holidays, they'd spend the time talking about Emma's latest boyfriend or how hard retail was or how she was thinking about maybe starting an Etsy store selling jewelry she didn't actually make. Then Emma met Kyle 8 months ago. Within 3 months, they were engaged. My parents were thrilled. Finally, their baby girl was getting married. They immediately started planning, spending money they didn't have on venues and dresses and parties. Last week, my phone rang. Mom, not bothering with hello. Emma needs your cabin for the wedding. Not asking. Telling. It's perfect, Mom continued. Rustic, authentic, intimate. June 15th. We'll need you to clear out for the week before so we can decorate. I sat in stunned silence. Then managed, that's my home. We should discuss dash. Don't be selfish. Family helps family. After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me? It slipped out before I could stop it. The silence was deafening. Then Dad got on the phone. We raised you, fed you, kept a roof over your head for 18 years. And this is how you repay us? By denying your sister her dream wedding. I'm not denying anything. I'm saying we need to discuss dash. There's nothing to discuss. It's one day. Stop being the problem child you've always been. Then came the real kicker. Mom took the phone back. Oh, and after the wedding, Emma and Kyle will need regular access. You're up there working all the time anyway, so it's not like you need privacy. It'll be the family vacation cabin. Emma's already planning renovations to make it more comfortable. Renovations. To my hand-built cabin. I said no. Clearly, firmly. You can rent it for the rehearsal dinner only. One evening, fair market rate. That's my offer. The explosion was immediate. Dad called me a selfish problem child who never grew up. Mom said I was punishing Emma for being loved and showing my true colors. Emma herself texted a novel about how I was ruining her perfect day over petty jealousy, how I'd always resented her for being happy, how this proved I'd never loved her. The thing is, I spent 3 years in therapy dealing with this dynamic. My therapist, Dr. Chen, helped me see the scapegoat pattern, helped me understand that their treatment wasn't about me but about them. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it in your bones are different things. When all 3 of them unite against me like this, when they all sing the same song they've been singing for 20 years, I start to doubt myself. Maybe I am selfish. Maybe a good brother would just give in. Maybe family does mean sacrificing everything you've built for people who've never supported you building it. I'm sitting in my cabin now, in the chair I carved myself, looking at walls I raised myself, feeling the warmth from the fire I'm burning in the fireplace I mortared stone by stone. Every inch of this place is embedded with my sweat, my dreams, my proof that I'm not the failure they painted me as. But their voices are loud in my head tonight. The problem child. Selfish. Jealous. Unloving. 20 years of those words have worn grooves in my brain that truth seems to flow around rather than through. Am I the problem here? Or have I always been the solution to a problem they needed me to be? Update 1. 2 weeks later. Thank you to everyone who responded. Your comments have been a lifeline. I've read every single one, some multiple times, especially late at night when the doubt creeps in. You've helped me see things I couldn't see from inside this mess. Something unexpected happened this week that I need to share. I was out doing fieldwork with Tom, 64M, my mentor. We were surveying for pine beetle damage in the state forest adjacent to my property. Tom's been more than a mentor. He's been the father figure I needed but didn't know I was looking for. He taught me timber framing, helped me design the cabin structure, spent weekends teaching me skills my own father never bothered with. In 7 years of working together, he's never once called me difficult or problematic. Tom noticed I was off. I was distracted, measuring the same tree twice, forgetting to record data. Finally, he set down his equipment and said, "Son, what's eating you?" The word son broke something in me. My own father had never called me that with warmth. I sat down on a fallen log and told him everything. The whole story poured out, the childhood of being wrong just for existing, the cabin demand, the wedding, the family vacation property, all of it. Tom listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the forest we both loved. Then he told me something he'd never shared before. "I was the family failure too," he said quietly. 40 years ago. My father owned a successful construction company. My 3 siblings all worked for him. I was supposed to take over, eldest son, family tradition, all that. But I wanted this. He gestured at the forest around us. I wanted to study trees, not pour concrete. Wanted to preserve, not develop. He told me how his family had reacted when he chose forestry school over the family business. His father called him ungrateful. His mother said he was breaking her heart. His siblings accused him of thinking he was better than them. They gave him an ultimatum: family business or family. He chose neither. He chose himself. Spent 10 years trying to earn their approval back, Tom continued. Invited them to my wedding, they didn't come. Sent pictures when my kids were born, no response. Achieved every professional milestone thinking, maybe this will be enough. It never was. No, when I finally found peace. I shook my head. When Sarah asked me one question. Sarah, his wife of 35 years. She said, "If a stranger treated you this way, would you keep them in your life?" And I realized I wouldn't. I wouldn't tolerate it from anyone else. Family isn't a free pass to treat someone like garbage. He stood up, brushing pine needles off his pants. Your cabin isn't just a building, kid. It's proof. Proof that despite their story about you, you became someone remarkable. You think they want it for a wedding? No. They want to colonize it, to claim it, to make your achievement about them. Because if you built something that beautiful while being the problem child, what does that say about their narrative? Then Tom pulled out his phone and showed me something that made me cry right there in the forest. He had a photo album labeled Jake's Cabin. Dozens of pictures. Me laying the foundation, raising the first wall, setting roof beams, the day I finished the fireplace. Pictures I didn't even know he'd taken. The last one was from the day I'd finished the roof, me standing on top, arms spread wide against a sunset sky, grinning like I'd conquered the world. "This," Tom said, "is who you really are. A builder. A creator. Someone who makes beautiful things despite the ugly he was handed. Your family had 27 years to see this. They chose not to. That's not your failure, son. That's theirs." That evening, emboldened by Tom's words, I sent a final text to Emma: "My offer stands. Rehearsal dinner only. One evening. Take it or leave it." Her response was immediate and explosive: "That's not good enough. You've always been jealous of me. Mom and Dad agree you're being ridiculous and selfish. We're coming to the cabin this weekend to talk sense into you in person." I replied, "I won't be there. The gate will be locked. This is not a negotiation." Then I did something I should have done years ago. I turned off my phone and went on a backcountry camping trip with Tom and 3 other guys from work. For 3 days, we hiked deep trails, identified rare plants, sat around a campfire telling stories. Tom told the guys about my cabin, showing them pictures. These men, who I'd worked with for years but kept at arm's length, immediately started sharing their own family stories. Turns out, choosing yourself over family dysfunction was more common than I'd thought. Mike had been disowned for marrying outside his race. Carlos's family called him a traitor for becoming a forest cop instead of joining his uncle's logging company. Pete's parents hadn't spoken to him in 5 years because he wouldn't force his gay son into conversion therapy. And here we all were, building our own family around campfires and common values. When I got back to civilization and turned on my phone, I had 47 missed calls, 83 texts, and 12 voicemails. I deleted them all without reading or listening. But I also had 1 email from my trail camera system. They'd actually shown up. The footage showed my parents' car at my locked gate. Multiple clips over 3 hours, Dad kicking the gate, Mom on her phone, probably calling me repeatedly, Emma dramatically crying against Kyle's shoulder, then eventually just sitting on the ground. Kyle pacing, clearly uncomfortable. Finally, Kyle leading them all back to the car, his hand on Emma's back but his face turned away from her. Update 2. 1 month later. The aftermath of the gate incident has been more dramatic than I expected. Emma managed to bypass my block, probably used a friend's phone or an app, and sent me a 3-page text about how I'm destroying the family, ruining her life, and proving I've always been jealous of her happiness. She accused me of turning Kyle against her, poisoning the family well, and being incapable of love. She ended with, "You'll die alone in that stupid cabin." I didn't respond, but something interesting happened next. Kyle reached out separately through Facebook Messenger. "Hey man, I know this is weird, but I need to talk to you. Can we have a phone call?" Against my better judgment, probably because I was curious, I agreed. Kyle sounded exhausted. "That day at your gate changed something for me," he started. "I watched your family stand there for 3 hours, demanding access to something you built, calling you selfish for not giving it to them. Emma kept saying you owed her this, that you'd always been the problem. But, what problem? What did you actually do?" I gave him the condensed version of our childhood. The grades thing, the car situation, the years of being wrong for existing. Kyle listened, occasionally asking for clarification. When I finished, there was a long silence. "My family isn't perfect," Kyle finally said. "But if I built something like that cabin, I saw the pictures Emma had on her phone, they'd be proud. They'd brag to everyone. They'd ask to visit, not demand to own it. And they definitely wouldn't call me names for saying no." He paused. "Emma's been getting worse about the wedding. She's demanding her parents pay for things they clearly can't afford. She made one bridesmaid drop out because she couldn't afford a $400 dress. She called a florist at 2 a.m. crying because the roses might be the wrong shade of pink. And this cabin thing. She's been telling everyone it's her rustic fairy tale venue, and already posting about it on Instagram like it's confirmed. She bought decorations. She hired a photographer specifically for outdoor forest shots. She never even asked me," I said quietly. "Not once. Just demanded." "I know," Kyle said. "And when I suggested she actually ask you nicely, maybe offer to pay you, maybe respect your no, she said I was taking your side against her. Said I should be defending her automatically because that's what love is." 2 days later, Emma called from a friend's phone, sobbing hysterically. Kyle had ended the engagement. She screamed that I'd poisoned him against her, that I'd won, that I'd successfully ruined her life just like I'd always wanted. "Emma," I said, trying to stay calm, "I haven't talked to Kyle except for one phone call. Whatever happened between you two has nothing to do with Dash. Everything is your fault. You've always hated me. You've always been jealous. Mom and Dad were right about you. You're a problem. You're broken. You're Dash." I hung up. I'd spent too many years in therapy to listen to that poison again. Mom sent a long email that night. Subject line, "You've finally done it." The email was a masterpiece of manipulation. I'd apparently destroyed Emma's life, broken her spirit, turned Kyle against her, and proved once and for all that I was incapable of family love. She mentioned that Emma was now in therapy because of the trauma I'd caused. She actually wrote, "I hope you're happy now that you've won." I wrote back one line, "Therapy helped me understand our family dynamic. Maybe it'll help Emma too." Mom's response was immediate, "There's nothing wrong with our family except you." Update 3, 2 months later. Something unexpected has been happening. Emma's been in therapy, and apparently, it's actually working. Her therapist, Dr. Martinez, reached out to me through my work email. With Emma's written permission, which was attached, she asked if I'd be willing to participate in one video session. The email was professional but had an undertone of, "This is important." Every part of me wanted to say no. But I thought about Tom's words, about choosing growth even when it's uncomfortable. So I agreed, with conditions. 1 session only, I could leave at any time, and no parents involved. The video session was brutal. Emma started by listing every way I'd hurt her throughout our lives. How I'd abandoned her, excluded her, made her feel unloved, turned people against her. Dr. Martinez let her speak without interruption for about 10 minutes. Then she asked a series of questions that changed everything. "Emma, can you tell me about a time you celebrated one of your brother's achievements?" Emma opened her mouth, then closed it. Silence stretched. "Can you describe a time you stood up for him when your parents criticized him?" More silence. Emma's face was changing, realization creeping in. "You've mentioned several times that he was the problem child. Can you give me specific examples of actual problems he caused? Not achievements your parents labeled as problems, but actual harmful behavior." Emma struggled. He was always questioning things, making everyone uncomfortable, acting superior with his grades and his job, and so his problems were success, questions, having boundaries. Dr. Martinez's voice was gentle but firm. Emma started crying then. Not the dramatic tears I was used to seeing, but something quieter, more real. I don't know why they didn't like you," she whispered to me through the screen. "You were just there, being yourself, and that was somehow wrong. And I made it worse because Dr. Martinez prompted. Because when I was mean to him, they loved me more." The words came out in a rush. I was 7 when I figured it out. If I said Jake was being weird, Mom would hug me and say I was perceptive. If I cried that Jake wouldn't play with me, Dad would punish him and buy me a toy. If I complained about Jake showing off, they'd take me for ice cream and tell me I was the good child. She looked directly at the camera, at me. I became addicted to being the golden child. And for me to be golden, you had to be garbage. And I made sure you were. Every day. For 20 years. Dr. Martinez guided us through the concept of family scapegoating, golden child dynamics, enmeshment. She explained how Emma had been trained from childhood to see me as the enemy to maintain her position, how our parents had essentially weaponized her against me to avoid dealing with their own issues. "It's not an excuse," Dr. Martinez said clearly. "But it is an explanation. Emma, you're an adult now. You chose to continue this pattern long after you were old enough to recognize it was wrong. That's on you. But your parents created this dynamic when you were too young to understand what they were doing to both of you." Emma said something that stopped my heart. "They stole my brother from me. They turned me into a weapon against the only sibling I'll ever have. And I let them. I let them because I liked feeling special. Jake, I'm 23 years old and I've never had to face a real consequence because you faced them all for me. When Kyle left, that was the first time I couldn't blame you and make it true." The session ended with no resolution, just raw honesty. Dr. Martinez suggested we both continue individual therapy before attempting any relationship repair. "Jake," Emma said before we logged off, "I know I have no right to ask, but are you okay? Like, actually okay. Not our family's definition of okay, but really okay." "I'm getting there," I told her honestly. "The cabin helps. Building something real helped." She nodded. "Maybe that's what I need to do. Build something. Instead of taking everyone else's." Update 4 months later. Emma has been in intensive therapy twice a week. Our parents, predictably, think therapy is filling her head with nonsense and turning her against family. The irony of that last part seems lost on them. She moved out of their house last month, got her own apartment with roommates from a support group she joined. She's working full-time at a garden center and taking online classes in landscape design. Our parents are beside themselves. Their golden child is throwing her life away and acting like Jake now. She asked to meet in person last week at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. I almost didn't go, but Tom reminded me that people can change if they do the work. "You did," he said simply. Emma looked different. Tired but real. Her hair was its natural brown instead of the expensive highlights our parents paid for. She wore jeans and a work shirt with soil under her nails. She looked like someone who'd been working, not performing. "I owe you an apology," she started, no preamble. "Not the kind where I make myself feel better or explain away what I did. A real one." She proceeded to apologize specifically. "For demanding my cabin. For 20 years of participating in my scapegoating. For never defending me. For taking credit for my achievements. Apparently, she'd been telling people for years that she inspired me to go into forestry because she loved nature when she'd never spent a night outside in her life. For treating me like a supporting character in the Emma show instead of a whole person with my own life. I was trained to be a weapon against you," she said, voice steady. "Every time you showed independence or success, I was deployed to knock you down. And the sick part? I liked it. It made me special. I was Mom and Dad's favorite weapon. That's fucked up. I'm fucked up. But I'm working on it." She told me about her therapy revelations. How our parents had made her responsible for their emotional regulation from age 3. How she had no identity outside of not Jake and the good one. How Kyle leaving had shattered the illusion that she was perfect and you were the problem. "He saw through it," she said. At the gate that day, he saw 3 adults throwing tantrums because they couldn't steal something from another adult. He asked me later what exactly made you difficult, and I couldn't answer with anything real. Just the story I'd been told. He said anyone who could build something that beautiful while being treated like garbage was someone he wanted to know, not someone to avoid. She pulled out her phone and showed me something, her Instagram. She'd deleted all the wedding posts, all the cabin venue posts. Instead, there were pictures of gardens, plants she was growing, landscape designs she was studying. I'm trying to build something too, she said. With my own hands. It's harder than taking yours. Can I? She hesitated. Could I see the cabin sometime? Not for anything. Not to use it. Just to see what you built. To see who you really are when none of us are defining you. I thought about it for a long moment. Maybe someday. Not yet. She nodded. That's fair. More than fair. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, Mom and Dad are losing it, you know. I'm not playing my role anymore. I don't attack you when they complain about you. I don't agree when they call you selfish. Last week, Dad said you were probably happy you'd ruined my life, and I said, Jake didn't ruin my life. I ruined my own life by expecting to steal his. Mom actually gasped. How did that feel? I asked. Terrifying, she admitted. And then, free. Final update, 1 year later. This will be my last update, because I think this story has found its ending. Or maybe its beginning. Emma kept doing the work. Real work, both internal and external. She stayed in therapy, stayed in her apartment despite our parents offering bribes to move home, stayed in her landscape design program. She started dating Marcus, 26M, someone she met in her hiking group. Yes, she joined a hiking group to understand what I loved about the wilderness. When she told Marcus about our history, his response was, wait, your brother built an entire cabin by hand and your family's response was to try to steal it. That's wild. Is he okay? 6 months ago, she asked again to see the cabin. I agreed, with conditions. Just her, 2 hours, no photos for social media. She agreed. When she arrived, I watched her take it in. She walked slowly, touching the walls, running her fingers over the joints I'd carved, looking at how the light came through the windows I'd positioned to catch morning sun. She stood in front of the fireplace for a long time, looking at each stone. You built this while we were calling you a failure, she said quietly. You created beauty while we were creating chaos. Jake, this is art. This is love made physical. How did they not see? They didn't want to see, I said. If they saw what I could build, they'd have to question what they'd torn down. She started crying then. I helped tear you down. For ice cream and toys and praise. I sold my brother for trinkets. You were a child, I said, surprised to find I meant it. They were adults. They made the choices. Emma asked if I'd help design her wedding to Marcus. Small ceremony, 20 people, in Marcus's parents' backyard. She wanted advice on working with the natural landscape. I agreed to help with the design, but said I wouldn't attend. I understand, she said. I haven't earned that yet. The day before her wedding, she called. I need you to know something. When Marcus's family asked about you, I told them the truth. That I have a brilliant brother who's a forestry technician, who built his own cabin, who's one of the strongest people I know. That I bullied him for years because I was weak and our parents rewarded me for it. That he's teaching me through his example that you can build something beautiful even from scorched earth. She paused. And Jake. At the rehearsal dinner, Dad tried to tell his favorite problem child story, the one about you questioning why I got candy for my tantrum. I stood up and said, the only problem in that story is that a 7-year-old had more integrity than the adults. Then I said if he told one more lie about you, I'd tell everyone the truth about every story he's ever told. Mom cried. Dad left early. Marcus's family applauded. I did end up going to the wedding. Sat in the back, left after the ceremony. But Emma saw me, smiled, a real smile, not performance, and nodded. Marcus found me in the parking lot. Emma tells me you're the reason she went to therapy, he said, shaking my hand. Which means you're the reason I met the real her, not the performance. Thank you for that. And thank you for showing her what building something real looks like. She's different now. Grounded. Our parents still call me the problem child, though now they have to do it more quietly because Emma corrects them every time. Sometimes publicly. She'll never be my best friend. Too much water under that bridge. But she's becoming something maybe more important, a person who owns her mistakes and actively works to correct them. Last month, she texted me a photo. She designed and built a meditation garden for a client who was recovering from family trauma. The design was intricate, thoughtful, with spaces for both growth and rest. Native plants that would bloom in different seasons, ensuring beauty year-round. A small water feature that sounded like the creek by my cabin. You taught me something, her message said. That we can build beautiful things not despite our pain but because of it. That creation is the opposite of destruction. Thank you for showing me that, even when I didn't deserve to see it. Last week, she asked if she could bring Marcus to see the cabin. I said yes. When they came, she didn't take a single photo. Just sat on the porch I'd built, looking at the forest, listening to the creek. I get it now, she said. Why you needed this. Why you had to build something that was entirely yours, untouched by our dysfunction. Marcus added, it's like a three-dimensional autobiography. Every board and stone is a chapter about who you really are. Emma nodded. The problem child built paradise. And we were too blind to see it. I was too cruel to care. You see it now, I said. And for the first time, that felt like enough. Tom came for dinner that night. Emma asked to meet him, to thank him for being the father I needed. She told him, thank you for seeing who Jake really was when his own family couldn't. Or wouldn't. Tom, in his typical fashion, just said, wasn't hard. Goodwood shows its grain even under poor finish. The sunset through the trees is golden now, painting the cabin walls warm amber. Tom and his wife come for dinner every week. My co-workers bring their kids to learn about the forest. Emma sends me her landscape designs for feedback, and I actually enjoy reviewing them. She's good. She has an eye for natural beauty that was probably always there, just buried under performance and manipulation. Marcus has become a friend. We go hiking sometimes, and he's teaching me rock climbing. He says Emma talks about me differently than most people talk about siblings, with a mixture of respect, regret, and determination to earn a relationship she once destroyed. Our parents are struggling. Their dynamic required 2 players, and now they only have each other. Emma says they spend most of their time rewriting history, trying to make themselves the victims. Sometimes they still try to guilt-trip me. Last week, Mom called to say I was breaking the family apart. No, I said calmly. I'm choosing to build something different. You're welcome to visit the cabin if you can treat me with basic respect. But my home isn't your property, and my life isn't your story to write. She hung up. She'll probably call again in a few months with some new manipulation. But it doesn't land the same way anymore. The cabin stands stronger than ever. I've added a workshop where I build furniture that I sell at the local market. Tom and I are writing a book together about sustainable building practices. Emma and Marcus are planning to build their own small cabin on property adjacent to mine, buying it themselves, building it themselves. She asked for advice, not help, and I respect that. Last night, I sat on my porch watching the stars appear. The creek sang its eternal song. An owl called from somewhere in the darkness. And for the first time in my life, the voices in my head were quiet. No problem child. No selfish. No difficult. Just peace. Emma texted me, therapy revelation of the week. I wasn't the golden child. I was the weapon. You weren't the scapegoat. You were the mirror that showed them who they really were. No wonder they had to break you. I texted back, they didn't break me. They just taught me to build with stronger materials. Like what? She asked. Truth. Work. Boundaries. And really good lumber. She sent back a laughing emoji, then, I love you. I know I don't have the right to say that yet, but I'm going to earn it. Even if it takes the rest of my life. I looked at her message for a long time. Then typed, you're already building. That's what matters. And it is. We're both building now. Building lives, building relationships, building futures that aren't dependent on our parents' approval or our assigned roles. Building something real from the wreckage of something false. The problem child built a paradise. The golden child is building a garden. And maybe, just maybe, we're building a bridge between them. The cabin stands. I stand. Emma's learning to stand. And that's more than enough. It's everything.